This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Strawberry.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I'm an alcoholic. Sean, thank you for having me speak. Wow, this is a full house. Okay, I'm a little nervous. All right, my sobriety date is February 13th of 2000. I was 23 when I got sober, so I'm 30 now. You can do the math. I'll save you from doing the math. I'm a really, really grateful alcoholic. If it wasn't for God stepping into my life, I wouldn't be here in the rooms today, and I probably wouldn't be alive. I am an alcoholic of the educational variety, and what that means for me is that when I'm out there doing what I do, I have no idea. I have no idea of what actually is going on, you know, and the facade of drugs and alcohol makes me feel like I'm almighty, I'm all-powerful, rules don't apply to me, and I'm fine. You know, I'm fine. It's all good, I'm fine. My best thinking didn't get me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I can tell you that. I'm born and raised in basically Los Angeles, and I'm first-generation American. My parents are foreign. They have accents, really thick ones. And you know, when people say I felt different, like I relate to that. You know, like I felt different. And no one ever told me that I was different. No one ever told me that I was weird. That's just my head. My head feeds me these messages, you know, and because of that, I act accordingly. And as a kid, I was a tomboy, and I ran around, and I was competitive, and I liked sports, and I got a lot of self-esteem from being good at, like, sports, and self-esteem from, like, beating my older brother. And I had always had something to prove, I think, a chip on my shoulder, so to speak. You know, I'm the youngest in my family, and growing up was really hard for me. And my parents decided to move to Beverly Hills when I graduated the 6th grade, and that was like a culture shock because I came from the Valley. I lived in Sherman Oaks. And I think that was like really the culmination of like my differentness. I had short, puffy red hair. It was curly. I dressed in splatter paint clothing. It was the 90s, like early 90s, 89, 90. And I mean, if someone could just give me a glass of alcohol, I would have been okay. And it wasn't long after that, I should say, that I did get that first drink. I remember being 15 years old and having a crush on my older brother's friend, and him and his friend and one of my best friends, we sat around in a little circle on my brother's balcony in his room, and we each had a 40, and there was a 6-pack of Elephant beer, you know, and I remember I really wanted to impress this guy so badly, you know, so I was like, I'm gonna finish my 40, you know, I finished my friend's 40, I had one of those Elephant beers, you know, and I felt successful, you know, I just felt alive. And like, I don't know about you guys, like, I like to talk shit, because again, I have something to prove, you know, and I remember drinking that last Elephant beer, you know, and just feeling alive, you know, and I remember going to bed that night and the room was spinning and my world was spinning, and I just felt that ease and comfort for once. And it went from there. You know, I went to Beverly Hills High School. I had this friend who was a year older than me, and she had a car and she could schmooze. You know, and here I am all of a sudden going out to these 21 and over clubs, you know, and I have the outfit that I leave the house in, you know, and then the outfit that happens once you take the covering off. I just dressed the part, and I loved it. You know, like I was 15 years old, pretending like I was 21. I was smoking cigarettes, I was drinking alcohol, I was going to these clubs, and that was my like evening lifestyle, my alter ego. And it worked for me. You know, during the day it was awkward, you know, and at night I came alive. And I would do and say and really like go anywhere I needed to at that point. You know, like I used to sneak out of my room through the window and like climb down this gate to get to where I needed to go, and I'd do the same thing to get back in. You know, and that's just, we do what we have to do, you know, and I was living under the rules and regulations of my parents, and being the baby, I didn't have much freedom to do what I wanted to do, you know, but I had alcohol in the house, and I could take bottles of alcohol as needed, you know, and I did. I did. You know, and I think then I was controlling and enjoying my drinking to a point, because I would drink any opportunity I got. And it progressively gets worse. This is a progressive disease. You know, it started with, you know, that 40 and that six-pack, and it goes much worse, you know, farther along the longer that we're out there. And for me, I went to Cal State University, Northridge. In my first week of going, I was commuting, and I realized the commute wasn't going to work for me. My parents really wanted me to stay at home. And I said, you know, Mom and Dad, this isn't working for me. Like, I need to, like, be at school, so I'm not losing much drive time. I can be doing my homework, you know, and attending classes and not being stressed out at the traffic. So I'm a good manipulator when I want my way. So I ended up in the dorms of Cal State University, Northridge at 17 years old. And man, it just really bloomed. My alcoholism flourished. There was a pub at school. I'd go to school, I'd go to the pub, I'd drink. I joined the sorority, you know, and in the sorority, they weren't really big on my behavior back then, but I hung out with fraternity brothers, and I would drink, and I would get high, and I thought I was having the life. You know, my daytime life would be school, pub, sorority, fraternity, and my nighttime life would be out in the clubs in Hollywood, because at this point, at 17 years old, I was club promoting, you know, and it just went on from there. You know, for me, drugs are a part of my story. That's how I got in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous at 22, and thank God, because the way that I drank, I see what alcoholism does to people, and I see how it affects people, and like, it's really scary and it's really sad, you know, and I can only imagine what it would be like if I was just a drinker. So, progressively gets worse. I smoked a lot of weed, I did a lot of ecstasy, you know, I did whatever you had. And one day I was at this film library at school at Cal State Northridge, and my friend came in, and he was in my film class, and he was like, do you mind if I do a little something? And I'd been around the block at this time. I'd pretty much seen everything. And I was like, sure. And he pulled out this little like mirror and baggie of stuff, and he started cutting lines, and I asked him what it was, and he said it was speed, and if I wanted to try it. And at this point, I'd never tried it, and I was like, okay, what does it do? And I was working on the computer, and he said it'll make you type faster. And that was it. That's all I needed. So I did that line, and I did type faster. The effect produced. You know, and I liked it. I liked what it did for me. You know, and I liked what alcohol did for me. I liked what drugs did for me. You know, and like what it did for me was calmed my head down. I could sink into my shoes, I could take a deep breath, and I could just be. I didn't have to feel awkward, I didn't have to feel like retarded, which I did a lot, you know? And so each day that went on at that time, the more I drink, the more that I used. And like what started to happen was like that was consuming my life. School didn't seem to be a priority anymore, you know, family didn't seem to be a priority anymore. I was still going out every night because I have an image to uphold, you know, and so I gotta be where I gotta be to get where I need to get. And it progressively got worse. I ended up being in this apartment in Encino, and my life was just one big party blackness, you know. People came in and out of my life. And like what started to happen more and more is that everything that I ever dreamed of, that I was ever motivated to do, stopped. It just stopped. You know, like school, no school, work. If there was drugs related in the work, then I would be there. Otherwise, there's really no motivation to go. Having to be somewhere, well, I got to get loaded first. How can I actually show up somewhere and be me if I don't have my makeup? You know, if I don't have to put in me what I need to deal with you. You know, and I didn't see any of that. Because again, like the delusion of alcoholism for me is that my alcoholic life seemed the only normal one. I cannot differentiate the true from the false. You know, so every day seemed like just another day, just doing what I needed to do. You know, and so what started happening for me, living that kind of life in that kind of insanity, is that I kept getting arrested. You know, and God for me showed up in LAPD. You know, and the first time I got arrested wasn't enough for me. You know, I was coming home from the Viper Room, and I kept getting in these little accidents. You know, like I would bend over to do a line, and I'd hit the person in front of me. And so, I guess some people have done that too. So I didn't have a front license plate on my car, you know, and so on my way home, I got pulled over because I didn't have this front license plate, and I was loaded, you know, and they pulled me out of the car, and I tried to be I tried to be compliant with these officers, and they asked me where the stuff was, and I showed them, you know, and I thought I was being very helpful. You know, and they were really mean. I got arrested. They put the handcuffs on really, really tight. They had me out in the rain in my little dress, you know, and I was humiliated. You know, I was humiliated. I got arrested. I called a friend. I got bailed out. You know, my parents ended up finding out because they owned my car. You know, so when I got that call, you know, I just told my parents the truth. You know, yes, I got arrested. You know, why did you get arrested? I got arrested because I've been selling drugs because you guys haven't been giving me enough money for school. And that was that. That's the way that I take responsibility. That's the way I'm accountable for my life. You know, I blame you. I blame you, you know, and that's what was easy for me, you know, and so I didn't really take it seriously. Like, I think I didn't drink and didn't do speed for like a week, but I was still smoking weed for some reason. I don't know. I did drug diversion. My drug dealer told me where to go where I wouldn't get drug tested, which was a great idea. So, and then I couldn't show up to that. But like what started happening again, you know, with the daily alcohol and drug use is progressively gets worse, you know. So I got arrested again, and I got arrested again, and the third time I got arrested, at this point, you know, like the shit totally hit the fan, you know, and I was doing things that I'm not proud of. I was involved with these guys, and I was doing credit card fraud. And like, again, when I say I can't differentiate the true from the false, like to me, I was acting, you know, I was playing a part. I was playing a role, you know, there's no like, I'm not doing anything wrong. What? It's cool, you know, and that's my mindset. So I got arrested this last time. I'm ordered to pay this $3,000 restitution. I'm not talking to my parents. I'm not communicating with them. I'm not blaming them. They don't know anything. And I'm just doing what I need to do on a consistent basis to maintain, you know. And I went to court. I showed up. The people who I was doing that stuff for got me an attorney, you know, and the judge said $3,000 or 160 days in county jail. You know, and I was like, sweet, I'm out of this, yay, awesome. You know, and I left the court and I was like, okay, now where do I get $3,000 from? That's a problem, you know, and the guys I was doing the fraud for said that they didn't have the money to give me, and I had way too much pride and ego to tell my parents, you know, shame and guilt, pride and ego. So my best thinking was, you know, go back to court. It's fine. It's cool, you know, kind of like when bills come in the mail, you just put it aside and it's cool. They pile up. So I kept doing what I was doing, and eventually the jig was up, and it was April 14th of 1999, and I was on my way to this job that I was doing, and late again, and I got pulled over because I went through this road closed, and I knew I was going to jail. That was it for me, you know. And I ended up going to Twin Towers Correctional Facility in beautiful, stunning downtown Los Angeles. And I got there, And I looked around and I looked at all these people who were in jail, and I judged them. I didn't feel like I belonged, I didn't feel that what I did warranted me being in jail, and highly judgmental, highly critical of others, and again, it's just me not being able to look at myself and actually look at what I've done. So I'd like to say that I was a good jailer and I did my time and got out scot-free and clean, but that would be a lie. So in jail, what happened was this, is that I snorted coffee on a pretty consistent basis. I took other people's medications, and I just didn't understand. I didn't get it, and I wanted to control things, and I wanted to run shit, and I would call people and let them know, what I needed them to do for me. My parents would come visit me on a pretty consistent basis, and we'd have this back and forth, and they wanted to tell me how things were going to go. I would live with them. I'd go to school. I wouldn't do clubs anymore because clubs are the problem, and for me, I was like, no, I'm going to live in an apartment that you guys are going to pay for, and I'll promote 4 clubs a week, and maybe I'll go back to school. So that was our fights on a pretty consistent basis, and that 5 months being in jail, I had some sort of surrender, and the surrender was this. I was done fighting and done trying to control because I realized at this point that I was powerless over certain things while I was in jail and that what I was doing wasn't working. And here are my parents who love me unconditionally and are there supporting me, and I just continue to hurt them and abuse them. And at 5 months at that surrender, it's pretty amazing what happened because I was supposed to do, 7 months and 20 days. I ended up getting a county year, and they stated they started this county parole program, and I applied and I got out in 6 months. And October 14th of 1999, I got out of Twin Towers Correctional Facility. I was ordered to register as a drug offender. I needed to go to AA meetings. I needed to go to an outpatient drug program, and at that point I was willing to do whatever it took to not go back to jail, and when I was in jail, I kept seeing these women come in and out and in and out and in and out, and I didn't want that to be a part of my life. I was raised with good morals and values, and given drugs and alcohol, that goes out the window, but I didn't want this to be a part of my life, and so I did what I was told, registered as a drug offender, went to this outpatient drug program, and I started coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. What was a trip for me was that there was a lot of people that I knew in AA that I had no idea that were sober, and I got dropped off at Ohio Street on Thursday night. It was a young people's meeting, and it was October 22nd of 1999. And I walked into this room, and just the lights were on and the laughter was on, and I was definitely attracted to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I liked the feeling, I liked the energy, and it was cool. There were people my age, and I was like, all right. I'd been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and a Narcotics Anonymous meeting prior for a class at school. It was an Advanced Aspects of Drug Use class, and I took that class because I was an advanced drug user, so I thought I would be good. But we had to go to these meetings so we could be a part of the recovery process, and back then I was like, it's a nice place for you guys to come to talk about your problems, but I didn't relate at that time because the blinders were on. But I went to this meeting, and man, I had a reason to keep coming back. I have to tell you guys, I was full of shit when I got here. I could not get honest. I had a sponsor who was not available, which was perfect, because I would come to these meetings and I would take commitments and I would hear what you guys said, and it would really hit me emotionally, and I would speak and I would share and I'd do all these things, but I wasn't doing the work because, again, I was full of shit. And I had these ideas, and the ideas were this, at a year of sobriety, I could celebrate with a glass of champagne, or because alcohol wasn't really my problem, it's okay to drink, and again, I didn't look at what reality was, I had these crazy ideas, and I'm really grateful that I got to share them with another crazy individual, because he told people our brilliant ideas, which I'm really grateful for because I got found out in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'd be going out and I'd see old bartenders and I'd have a drink and I'd come back and I wasn't telling them anything. And I got pulled out of Ohio Street on a Saturday night, and this guy told me, what you're doing is killing yourself. And he was right, killing myself slowly. And I don't know what it was about him saying that to me that night, but, I was found out. I was found out, and I had a choice to make. I could go off, do what I know how to do, or I could do something different. And in that moment, I decided that if it was working for you guys, that maybe this could work for me. And I decided to do something different, and I got a sponsor. And this sponsor was available, and she was the first woman I could ever get honest with. What she told me is that what you need to do is tell on yourself at every meeting that you ever took a chip at or spoke at exactly what you've been doing. On a Monday night Chinatown meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I stood up at the podium, and I'd said that basically that I was a liar and I'd been drinking, and you guys applauded me. After the meeting, people came up to me and told me that I was really brave, and because I got honest, they could get honest. And I didn't realize that that's what was going to happen. I was just willing to do something that my sponsor told me to do for my sobriety, and I helped someone else. And that laid the foundation for my sobriety, and I was able to tell on myself on a consistent basis. Some places I had to wait for a year until I took a cake to make amends. But I was willing to do that stuff, and I was willing to take a look at myself, and I was willing to get honest with this woman, and in getting honest with this woman, I was able to get honest with you guys, and I didn't have to have that shame and that guilt, and for me, like, I really want you guys to like me, and I really want you guys to love me, and so in the process of that, being a chameleon, needing to be whatever to achieve that, I couldn't be honest with you guys as far as what was really going on with me, until all that went down, and when I did my first round of steps, I got to learn about expectations. I want you guys to behave the way I want you to behave, and when you don't, I get resentful. Or I want you to say what I want you to say, and when you don't, I get resentful. Or I'm selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, and dishonest, and dishonesty also includes by lying by omission. And I had a lot of that continuously in my fourth step. Because when I first looked at it, I was like, how do I have a fault here if you left me in a relationship? I don't get it. I don't understand. And my sponsor would say, well, why don't you really take a look at your behavior? Okay, well, maybe if I wasn't so obsessive, my will, my way in this relationship, maybe it wouldn't be impossible to be friends with me, giving people no other choice than to leave a relationship, and that kind of really opened my eyes to who I was, the shit that I did, and how it affected me, and how it affected you, and taking responsibility for that stuff, and I had to come to terms with like being a shitty friend and a shitty daughter, like I had to look at that stuff. And the cool thing is that I could look at that stuff, which was in the past, and not have to continue doing those things today. I don't have to be that person today. In my sixth and seventh step, my list of negative character traits, next to a list of the opposite positive character traits, and there's my daily living plan. Instead of being selfish, how do I be selfless? Instead of being dishonest, how am I going to be honest? Instead of being judgmental, how am I going to be open? And really getting my head to look at that on a daily basis. And I started to change. I started to grow up. I started to have self-esteem and self-worth and self-confidence and self-love. Like Bill and Bob were really smart, in 1935, coming up with this program, Alcoholics Anonymous, with this plan of living, which is a solution to my life today. And I'm really, really grateful, and I love our history, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous, because here I am at 30 years old, and I'm a woman, though sometimes I don't feel that way. I can be mature, I have a choice. I own a business. People rely on me to show up on a daily basis. I have parents who absolutely adore me. I have relationships in my life that are loving, that I can be selfless towards and show up to, you know, and who would have thunk it? I'm a miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, for real. And my life today is a life of service. Other than my responsibilities, you know, like I take pride in Alcoholics Anonymous and like wanting to stay here and doing what I need to do, you know, and I like this analogy that Alcoholics Anonymous is like a game of baseball, you know, and there are players and there are fans, you know, and the players are the ones who come, have commitments, they show up, they work hard, they continue to do the deal, you know, because you have to practice if you want to play, you know, and the fans are come and go. I don't want to be a fan, you know, like I want to be a player, and so I'm of service, you know, and I've been of service since I was newly sober. You know, I've been doing these events with Los Angeles County young people and Alcoholics Anonymous, and these dances and meetings and going to conventions and traveling. And what happened as a result of me being a part of is that I got this full life all of a sudden, you know, with meaning and with purpose and with laughter and with light. And we're hosting this convention at the end of this month, you know, called the 49th International Conference of Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and I invite you all to come. It's at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel in downtown, you know, and it's a lot of work. But the payoff is this, you know, is that I remember what it was like for me to be new, and I remember what it was like for me to be at my first convention and seeing a bunch of alcoholics going crazy, you know, 3,000 people holding hands doing the Serenity Prayer and just feeling alive. Feeling that energy and that spirit and that enthusiasm, you know, and I got addicted. You know, I was like, wow. You know, being in a jacuzzi with 25 people at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, just like hanging out, you know, and that's what we can do here. I don't have to be ashamed, and I don't have to be guilty, and I don't have to feel in my head and insecure and meaningless and like all of that stuff that I tend to feel at times. But when I'm of service, when I'm with you, I don't feel that. I don't think that. I'm not surrounded by selfish, self-centered thoughts. You know, I'm just with you guys, loving you and loving me at the same time. And so my life is beautiful. You know, it's not perfect. And shit still happens even when you're sober. You know, I've had people die in my life. I've got car accidents, you know, been in love, lost love, you know, like had the IRS come after me, you know, just like the stuff that still happens, you know, even sober or not. And the difference is that I show up today. You know, if I get a ticket and I have to go to court, I show up. Amazing how that is, you know, and when I show up, it's okay. But when I like put the bills off to the side and don't take care of them, they pile up, you know, and it gets a little bit unmanageable. You know, I have to learn, I continuously learn on a daily basis how to live life, how to apply myself, how to show up, how to walk through things, you know, and the cool thing is that I don't have to do it alone. And if you're new, like I implore you to get honest, to talk about your things. You're not terminally unique, though you may feel that way. I thought that I was special and that no one understood until I started opening my mouth. Until I started getting honest as far as what was really going on with me, you know, and what I get is experience, strength, and hope. What I get is you guys walking with me on this journey, you know, happy, joyous, and free, and that's what I get on a daily basis today, you know, and again, like it's a choice that I make on a daily basis, you know, when I wake up and I pray to my higher power, and I turn the reins over and I say, okay, God, you're in the driver's seat. Help me be of service. You know, and I walk through my day, treating people the way that I want to be treated, you know, trying to be kind, not wanting to cause any more wreckage, you know, and at the end of the day when I lay my head down at night, and I have long days, you know, but I feel good. And when I look at the progression of me now compared to me then, I mean, that's God. Really, and Alcoholics Anonymous. Because again, the drug addict alcoholic of my variety shouldn't be here with 7.5 years of sobriety talking to you about my life, and how Alcoholics Anonymous has worked for me. I should probably be dead, So I've been spared an alcoholic death, as the book talks about, and I'm truly grateful. So if you're new, get a sponsor, get the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The program's laid out there in the first 164 pages, and have someone walk you through this. And again, I implore you to be honest, to talk about what's really going on with you, to get the help that you need. And welcome home. I found a home in Alcoholics Anonymous, where I can look at myself in the mirror and not hate who I see today. And again, my life has meaning, and it has purpose, and it's beautiful, and you can have that too. So thank you for listening. Sean, again, thank you for having me, and thanks, yeah.